We are live.
I was
Hey
just
there, welcome.
fixing this.
Fix it up. Welcome to this is Spoken Openness. I believe this is episode 10. Uh,
Hmm.
we are live, we are present, and we are correct. This is Ian Belcher speaking with Farid Zacharias in Mexico. I'm in
Hello,
Vancouver.
everyone.
We are using our cameras to transcend time and space, to have a conversation as part of this podcast where we attempt to improve our verbal fluency, our ability to communicate and express our ideas while learning about what our ideas may be. And this practice is an attempt to make a habit out of long form conversations. Welcome.
What that guy said. Nice. That was a very precise summary of what we're trying to achieve. I like that.
Thank you. I hope so. On the last time we spoke, which was, I guess, over a week ago, I wanted to make more of an effort to be conscious in my sentence creation during the podcast. So I will attempt to be better at that on this one. Um,
That's great. I will attempt to be a better listener and not only to be more aware of all the subtleties of what you're trying to express, but listen to myself as well.
mhm.
Kind of try to listen to myself while exploring the conversation.
Totally. Because sometimes if you're not listening to yourself and you're saying something, you can not realize that you may be just going into like a paragraph or opening up a cabinet that's filled with ideas that you've already recorded or thought about, and you might just be flowing on that pre
Mm,
created sentences. And if you are sometimes paying attention or listening to yourself, you might go, "Well, I'm not going to go into that whole thing," or "I'm going to pause here and stay conscious, um, and not just ramble because perhaps I don't believe that anymore, or perhaps my perspective has changed, or perhaps I would like to explore a new perspective right now." Uh,
that's it. Which may lead to sudden silence that shouldn't feel awkward, but for most people, most times it does.
it feels so awkward.
Mostly if you're recording in any way,
Mm-hmm.
silence feels awkward. Feels like a waste of, this precious technology and the precious viewer that's, giving
Yeah.
us their attention. But silence is okay.
Mm-hmm. I I don't think it's just when it's something's being recorded. Like I don't like silence in general. I'm very uncomfortable with silence, uh, which sometimes leads me to say sentences and respond to things without fully allowing myself time to feel like I have adequately responded to it honestly in my own mind, or as if I'm responding to it 100% truthfully and honestly. We've talked about this before. It's like if someone says, "How are you?" It's like that could be a very long, not even, it could be a great answer, response. It could be a multitude of things, but how are you I think has been dissolved into entirely an expectation of pleasantries. And
Yeah.
uh, if anyone treated that as not simply a pleasantry, that could be an entry to a very very long conversation, because you could talk about what's on your mind at the moment, how are you physically feeling, what
Hmm.
what are things you're thinking about, what did you have for breakfast, how are you feeling about the weather, did you all of these things can be influencing how you are. That's such a huge question. That's such a huge question. I think that's almost as big of a question as saying, why are you here?
Yeah, no, dude, it could totally be interpreted that way.
Yeah.
If you depends on the intention where the how are you doing comes from.
Right.
Um, it could be really deep, and I guess I guess it all depends on set and setting
Yeah.
of the question being raised. I just
That's a lot of
noticed
variables, though.
that that's a lot of very, yeah, of course. But if the variables are right, and then the right person goes, "Hey, how are you doing?"
Uh huh.
And then you're like, "Whoa." I'm ready to cry and confess. No, dude, I just noticed that my my recorder is not properly set up.
Oh,
So you're getting audio from probably this little mic right here.
yeah.
Is that okay though? Should
It's
we keep
okay right
going?
now. I mean, are you able to switch it out without shutting anything down, or are you worried about that?
I am uncertain.
I think your voice might have been slightly loud, but I've fixed it. I pulled it down, so it should be all right.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
did you switch it out?
Going. Did you feel the switch?
Yeah, I just have to
Then it happened.
I just have to
Okay.
fix the levels, so it should be good right now.
Okay.
Um, variables, man, variables. It's all about variables. It's all
Hmm.
about understanding the influence of variables and when to apply the insights about how to interpret variables into your everyday life and in the moment. And sometimes that, uh, pleasantries feel like a deception sometimes,
Yeah.
because they're kind of just like a thing that you do to break the ice or to just move forward from, just acknowledge that you've seen each other. Basically, when you say hi to
Hmm.
somebody, you're just acknowledging like, oh, I see you, I recognize you, you're a person that I know. And you say something, or maybe it's a stranger, it doesn't matter. But even though it's just a thing that happens, there's still a part of you that's like, why did we just, like, you know we're just, there's nothing necessarily unique or truthful about that interaction. And would you say that a more habit filled, um, maybe someone who's driven more by their automatic programming in their everyday life, which is me most of the time, almost all the time, and a lot
Yeah.
of people, I think,
Sure.
it's comprised of maybe like meta pleasantries, where everything you say is just like a stream of of dialogue and sentences that you assume are necessary in that present moment, but deemed necessary in that present moment by your automated thinking processes. Um, do you agree with that? What do you think about that? Did I?
No, yeah, I agree. In the way that actually it made me think about conversations I've had with complete strangers. Um, and how authentic they were because of the fact that you're talking with a complete stranger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that also made me think that whenever you're hanging out with someone on a regular basis, it starts to feel like you already sort of know who that person is and what they're going through in this time of their life
Mm-hmm.
and what their process is generally. And so the question, like the opening conversation, small talk question, would be way less meaningful and will be taken as a question for a small detail that
Mm-hmm.
maybe happened in the last few days because we've been seeing each other every day and we talk regularly.
Mm-hmm.
So um, that raises the difficulty of engaging in a profound level with someone that
Mm-hmm.
you feel like you know how they think.
Right. It's
And
in.
all, yeah.
Sorry. No,
Also,
keep going.
most people don't constantly kind of renovate their belief systems or structures
Yeah.
or normal ideas. So
Yeah.
it's also, yeah,
No, that's true. But it's almost like you can extend the you can extend the phenomenon of habit forming and sort of automated response pattern building in your mind on an individual level uh, to relationships and other people, and also on a collective, where once a pattern has kind of been established, it becomes more and more automated, and it becomes harder and harder to approach um, each moment from a sort of present, conscious uh, state.
yeah.
Um, do you think that there's a like what the relationship to that phenomena would be, almost the like the fewer people and the longer you communicate, the stronger the automated systems might be, or the more likely it would be that automated systems would occur. So like on an individual level, it's very fast because
Yeah.
on a two person level, it's a little bit slower, and then on a collective level, it takes more time because of the increase in variables.
Do you think it depends for each person? Like
Uh
it's
huh.
different for every person?
100%.
Some people feel way more at home when there's more people,
Mm-hmm.
which is weird because normally people get like stage fright or um, is that a thing? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
yeah? Okay, okay.
yeah.
I maybe thought that the translation in my head was somewhat wrong.
No, it's just a good
But
use of
yeah.
it in it. Yeah. Uh,
I most of the time, to be honest, I feel like I'm a strange. I'm a strange, and that's it.
Dude,
Just kidding.
I'm a
Like I'm a
strange too.
strange dude to have a conversation with.
I
Like,
I feel the same way.
maybe that's not worded correctly.
I get
Maybe
you.
um, most of the time I feel like I'm not a good conversationalist. Like I could go
Yes.
anywhere or like not follow
Yes.
along or like not like so I'm trying my best to like uh, to have a normal conversation most of the times.
Yes. Yeah. I think a lot of people are maybe that way, maybe not. Maybe that's an introvert extrovert kind of a thing. Um, there's also the thing. There's also the notion that uh, people get like we get a reflection of people's perception of you and who you are, and that influences the interaction based on the expectation other people have on how you're going to react based on memories and what they know about you and how they perceive you. That also influences every single interaction because of that. And sometimes I'm sure everybody can recognize this in their family or like being with family, is that there's very deep grooves of how you've behaved, how you act, and the perceptions of who you are built on. I mean, your family spent a lot of time with you, and
Yeah.
so it's also, I guess, true. Maybe it's not, but that the longer it's harder to break, um, or it takes more work to remain genuine in the face of extreme perceived expectation on your being sometimes. And it's
Sure.
not always a negative way, but I just think that's an interesting variable when it comes to um, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, interactions.
So it's like we affect each other
Yeah.
constantly.
Uh-huh.
I was,
Yeah.
excuse me, I was talking with a friend about the nature of humor like 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I just had to link it with our conversation because
Yeah. Did you guys
I
talk about
think
farts?
we didn't. We didn't. We should have. That's
It's a
a
low
major
ball
element. That's a major
low
element.
ball joke.
Especially, yeah. But some people are definitely funnier than other people.
Yes.
But for me, what is like magic is when two not generally funny people allow themselves to have a like a not a funny moment, but like a humor allowing atmosphere
Mm-hmm.
in which you're not trying to be funny, you're not making jokes, but stuff is funny. Like
Mm-hmm.
you get with that other person in some vibration
Yes, yes.
where things are light
Yes.
and things are funny, and
Yes.
that's magical. That's a rare moment, and it's not a
Yes.
moment. It's maybe 3 hours or 2 hours or like 30 minutes,
I
but
would say
it's
it happens a lot on set, or I would say in environments where it's like late at
yeah,
night and like everyone's been like serious and like working and trying to do everything well, and then
100%.
all of a
Yeah,
sudden it's like, I don't know, really late, and there's something to do with time. Like I always notice that definitely happens more often when it's late. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
especially
That's
when
true.
I always feel like it's also maybe you get really tired when it's late. You get really tired, and then your body is almost like, oh, you're not going to sleep now, and then you come out of that like, say it's like 12:30 or 1 a.m., or it's supposed to be, it's like a night shoot, or it's like you're with a bunch of people and it's late and you just got over the tired thing, and usually that's, I always feel like that's when it starts to go into that what you're talking about, where you
Yeah.
just get the giggles, everything is funny, and everyone kind of gets this collective notion, and um,
And it's great.
it's great. Yeah, but what is that? You know, that's one of those things. This is collective consciousness, and this is fascinating stuff because I've always noticed this thing where um, listening to music, watching a movie, or media is can be so different if you're listening to it or watching it or whatever it is, media say, depending on who you're with. Uh, and I don't think it's purely explainable by your assumptions about how they're perceiving it, or about there's something else going on. It's like there becomes a unified change in both of your perceptions on whatever it is you're consuming. And I find that phenomenon to be so interesting, and it doesn't feel like it's reducible to uh, what you think their tastes are, how you're noticing their facial expressions.
It's like a
Your
universal thing. It could happen
It's
with
really
anyone.
weird. Yeah. It's weird because you also like if I listen to say if I like music if I like a song and I'm playing a song and somebody's with me, I will it's not only that I notice they don't like the song, I will hear things about the song that I don't like uh
Yeah.
in an
And project them. Yeah.
yeah, so maybe it is just a projection of what you think they're hearing in it, but it feels like something more experiential. But maybe you just maybe that is what it is. Maybe it's just a projection of what you think they are
No, maybe
noticing in
it's
it.
not. Maybe it's a different thing. Maybe it's more of a communication or like communion that goes on that's beyond traditional communication structures that we can't explain.
I hope
I'm
so.
saying, I hope so. Yeah, let's not go there. But what do you think? Because it's funny that you mentioned that you think most of the time this phenomena happens when people are tired or when like time is becomes sort of relative because you're in there for long for like hours,
Yeah.
maybe days, and so there's maybe this sort of trance like thing going on where you're allowed to relax in a certain way.
Uh huh.
So when I was talking to this person about the nature of humor,
Yeah.
we arrived at the sort of idea that it has to do with the the acknowledgement that life isn't that serious and it's all
Mm-hmm.
non-permanent and like ego exists for a blink of an eye and
Mm-hmm.
it's all not that serious. So you allow yourself, and we kind of arrived to that idea where it has, or we made it be, um, we related it to ego and the relationship
Hmm.
with yourself
Yeah.
and kind of explained it that way. So, and it's like relaxing to the fact that we're not even real in the first place, sort of
Mm-hmm.
that idea.
I get that. Yeah, I like that. It's like acknowledging everything kind of becomes a little surreal, and that becomes funny. I think there's a nature of like everything kind of being surreal, as if for a second you notice that you're all. It's like imagine you were imagine everybody was like dressed like like a banana, and you're on stage and you're doing a play, but in the play it's like a serious play, and you're like, why'd you kill my sister? And it's like really intense, but then all of a sudden like you notice that you're like on a stage and that you're wearing a banana costume, and that and then it's like this weird thing where it's like you notice like everyone's wearing a banana costume, even though there isn't anything as blatant as like a banana costume. It's something you know deeper, which I think you touched on. I also wonder how, because I have read that like humor or laughter, part of the evolutionary history of maybe its function is like an acknowledgement that you're not going to kill each other. Like I think that's almost honestly like if you notice in primates that laughter is a very like if there it means that there's like kind of an eradication of possible threat in that time. So like if you have a bunch of primates
Okay.
and everyone, might be a little bit worried like, "Oh, this guy's pretty big and we haven't had much food and I don't know, he might, want to attack me so that something." But then, you laugh and it's like, "Oh, okay." It's like, "Oh,
Yeah, but
okay, nice."
that's like the smile, laugh, like it's all okay. But is that
Yeah.
genuine laughter though? Do
I
you think
think
that's
so. Yeah, I
do you
think
think
so
that's where it
because,
comes from?
well, I think that there's an element of that is truthful, and I think is probably, there's a high probability that that is a large influence on why laughing exists and has remained in the gene pool this long. But I definitely don't think it's like the sole reason for its existence or even the full story about how it functions uh, physically and metaphysically now in
Yeah,
2018. But I definitely think that that's a big, like, because it's
of
like
course.
laughter in comedy is like building tension and then popping the tension bubble, right?
Releasing, yeah.
Releasing the
Hmm.
tension, and
Hmm.
if you can
That's
do
how
that,
drama works. Yeah.
yeah, and if you can do that in an unexpected way, it's funny. Um,
That's also music, tension and release most of
there's
the
also
time.
music, yeah, but
That's a great concept, actually. We could
totally. But I
talk
just quickly want to spin on that in the situation where primates might be unsure of their safety. That's a very tense. That's like maximum tense. So then humor is very close. It's like that. It's like the alchemical. Everything is kind of on a degree. So like hot and cold is connected to each other. It's just it flows into the other thing. It's like tension is like, the more tense it is, the closer it is to becoming not tense. The closer it is to becoming humorous. It's like the
Yes.
the distance becomes less. The more, um,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's always the case, but maybe the possibility is there. I wouldn't say someone about to murder you could become a really funny situation all of a sudden, but I don't know. Uh, Maybe that's not true.
But there is release after high tension,
Uh huh.
almost always.
Everything that goes up must come down. Almost, it's like that. It's almost like that.
But there's very low vibrational comedy too. And what I was
Yeah.
referring to maybe sounded like I was making a case for spiritual comedy or something like that, with like
I don't know what
weird.
that is.
But for me, for example, um, when I listen to George Carlin,
Yeah.
that's very spiritual for me.
Uh huh.
Um, in most cases,
Uh
like
huh.
most of his content,
Yeah.
it feels awakening, but it also feels like it's making a case for it's not all that serious.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the tipping point you were talking about, where it's it's all not all that serious, about definite impermanence, and the universe will um, eventually be just coldness.
Yeah.
And so it's really all about the journey.
Apparently.
And
Yeah.
apparently, well, but then there's intellectual or spiritual figures that are speaking of these issues,
Mm-hmm.
but it's most of the time it's loaded with some seriousness and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
profound mystery, that it's super, like you almost fear the mystery, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Then comedians sometimes they dive into this very complex and meaningful and important subjects for a lot of
Yeah.
people, and it's done gracefully with humor.
Yeah. I
And
think.
it's
Yeah.
not, yeah,
Sorry, I cut you off.
it's not a humor where you're laughing at someone. It's
It's like it's like an
it's like
essence.
intelligent. Yeah. I don't even know how to. What do you think? I don't even
Yeah.
know how
No.
to
Yeah.
tag it.
Maybe I'm going back or sidetrack, but I will say that when you listen to like humor has to be reminded to you, which is interesting. It's like I feel like, and it's probably
Mm.
different with other people, but seriousness is very easy to arrive to, and maybe that has to do with personality types and what have you. But like I think in the like Japanese koans or like some of the Buddhist teachings and um, you know, some great like Sikh teach, like just if you look at sort of some quote unquote like awakened or highly enlightened end quote people,
Yeah.
they I did quote unquote and then end quote. So
Nice.
I've got an open quote and then two quotes at the end. Uh, I think that they
This is a complex idea right here.
no, but the more quotations and the more it's true that the never mind.
You're making safe. Yeah, I know. I get it. You're.
What was I thinking about?
Don't worry.
Um, they always have an element of humor. They're always, you know, laughing. Like, why are you trying to like the notion of a koan? It's like you can't figure this out. Like, what you're serious sitting there, like, what you know, what is the nature of reality? And then they're just like, you know, they say something silly or say something that you and you're like trying to puzzle over it, and then it's just like the answer might be to laugh or something. Like, it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
the Alan Watts thing of like you think you can figure it out, like you aren't going to be able to figure it out. So like it's funny, and then the notion of it
Exactly.
as like a game and as like a you know of like this kind of different thing. And I think humor is very it's deeper than um
Just a joke.
it's deeper than just a joke, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was something else that I was gonna go to, but I forget the evidence, the trail of that. So I'll see if it comes back.
But you know, I wonder if that's it. If I wonder if we will ever know what the experience of a person that has been meditating all of their life, living in a privileged privileged place in the way that it's peaceful and
Mm-hmm.
surrounded by nature
Sure.
and and what's that like? I've been wondering for a long time if true enlightenment exists,
Mm-hmm.
if they're actually having a completely different experience. We can't know. Actually, um, I saw a video the other day. It's a think big video or something like that. I don't remember the name of the scientist that was speaking in the video. It doesn't matter. He was referring to Olympic level meditators, and they did MRI scans for
Mm-hmm.
long long periods of time, and apparently the evidence is astonishing in the way that the the brain waves are like out of the charts, like not even
Mm-hmm.
comparable to like normal human
Mm-hmm.
brain waves. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't dive any more into that because I am sort of afraid that that concept of this person's experience being simplified to data.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Like that's the thing about tool that's whoa. Sorry for everybody about that
that's
explosion.
okay.
Um that's the problem about like really clear material instruments of measurement. It's like so the brain waves are different. It's like what does that mean? That doesn't imply
Mhm.
really anything other than the brain waves are different. I'm and look at the difference of the brain waves. Um,
At least they indicate that it's something very different going on.
yeah,
Maybe.
it would be really hard for me to imagine a scenario where someone meditated for 50 years and their brain looked the same, was the same as. I just I would never expect that it would be this, that it would look the same. I mean, if you take one person who's lifting a weight every day for 40 years and then you take someone else who isn't, I'm going to expect the person who's lifting weights arm to be stronger than the other guy's arm.
Yeah.
Depending on the other variables. But what you're talking about, what's really interesting is how to you can't experience is something you can simulate. You can watch a movie. Like, this movie is about a warrior, and you're like, oh, I feel like I know what it's like to be a warrior. And then, stories are, they can get you into simulating an experience without having to actually do the thing. But it's still going through your own filters that you've developed in your perspectives and how you see the world. So there's always going to be that contamination, no matter how accurate the cinematography is and all that stuff. That whatever. And we don't have to go here.
Please don't go there.
I'm just gonna say it, but I'm pretty sure within the next 50, 60 years, the level of virtual reality simulation is going to be physical um, um, mechanisms for triggering the sensory input so that you feel the experience, and it will be indistinguishable from pun intended, virtually indistinguishable from reality. And in that
Yeah.
situation, and I've thought about this before. uh uh Not only will that technology be better, but the every year the brain scan imagery doubles in resolution. So not only will we be able to have the thing to implement a complete sensory uh, um, experience that's different from your own immediately, but you'll also be able to recreate the exact activity of somebody's brain. Now, whether or not that activity correlates to X, Y, and Z or their experience, that's still, we don't know. But like, the technology will be there to say, hey, here's a thing, put it on or whatever. You're gonna feel what it's like to be that person or this person or on a motorcycle going down
And it's
Everest.
probably gonna be famous people that are already recording every moment of their lives with their
Dude,
crazy cameras. Okay.
Instagram 30,000.0 is
That's
going to be
one
you
thing.
feel the life of someone else.
Yeah. But and you're gonna pay to
Ah!
be Beyonce for like an hour, and then if you want to be
She's just like eating
Beyonce for your
cereal.
whole life, you just pay more. And
She's like
like,
eating
but
cereal, walking the
dude,
dog.
what's that's definitely gonna happen, and it's just a matter of how fast. And then what's
We don't
gonna
need to
happen
go
is
here. Yeah.
we will inside those games we will create games and we will play games inside those games, and those games will get better.
Yeah, it's
And
Inception.
yeah.
Yeah.
But we're here.
Yeah.
We could be here for real.
We're also on computers. We're also in three places
We
right
could
now.
not be. We could not be. Well, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Mm,
I don't Yeah, we don't have to talk about this. I don't believe we're in a simulation at all,
Me
but
neither. No, me neither.
yeah.
But do you believe we're not 100%? What I'm saying is the simulation theory is just a new name
Yeah.
for the same idea that has been around
Yeah.
cultures forever.
Yeah. Uh,
which is, you know, malleable reality
yes.
is
Someone,
not.
someone retold the same story in numbers so that our rational, materialist, scientific-minded people can adopt the same narrative without feeling guilty of having to pretend to be faith about something. So they go, look, the
Right.
whole world is fake and a play and a simulation, but I don't. You're not going to mock me because there's no. It's a math, and everyone's like,
But it's also the result of a long time of research and
yeah,
people that are like trying to figure out
yeah.
how things work at a very minimal, basic level, I guess, and they find code. Let's let's not go there and
This is the
switch
thing.
topics.
This is the thing. I just need to get. I just need to say this. I do. There's. I feel right now, and I could be wrong. I'm just going to make the statement. I think there's a limit to math. You can't just do equations for 40 years and you're going to be able to come up with something that appears to be something that seems to be like a proof or like I don't do math. I'm not good at math, but I philosophically feel like you're running in circles and you're writing a screenplay with math. Uh,
Yeah.
that being said, I'm probably wrong. Uh,
So out
but
of
that is all. This is the second thought that I had to say was that this all is a part of a massive elephant in the room in my brain, which is having to acknowledge the fact that everything that we know about how the world works breaks down at the quantum level. And when we uncovered quantum physics and we saw that particles were in two places at one time, and a particle is a wave and a particle at the same time, and all of these things,
observer changes
observer
everything.
changes everything. I mean, how can we still talk about? I get why we can still. Maybe I'm backtracking on myself, but how can we talk about knowing gravity and all of this stuff? It's like we've made observations in our limited time in existence in the universe that seem to be reproducible and we can predict, and I get that. But how can
Yeah.
we be so sure that that is a
No
fundamental
one's
reflection
sure.
of reality?
We can't understand, we can only begin to understand. Like
Yeah.
it's like we you can't change the world, but you can actually begin to better the world in
Yeah.
your network.
We got some
Um,
guesses,
yeah.
and
Let me just say this.
they work a little bit.
They work in that environment and in that rules of the game that has been established. But out of
And they work with
many
our senses.
languages, out of all the languages that would be tools for people to explore the basic structure of reality,
Nice.
out of all the available tools, I appreciate that people choose math
Yeah.
to try
Oh,
to
it's good.
understand reality.
Math is
Out of
great.
all the possible, yeah.
I love math. I'm not trying to give math a
I
bad
know, I
Yelp
know.
rating right now.
Of
It's
course, of
five
course.
stars Yelp. 5 stars.
Thank you for your Yelp review of the day,
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Belcher.
Yeah. Yelp, math, 5 stars. I'll be back.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. I'll should we be back in five? Should,
Wait, do you have to go somewhere?
I would like to take 3 to
Okay.
5 minutes
Okay.
from
You can say you
break.
have to go to the bathroom. I do too. All right. Let's.
It's not a bathroom break, actually.
All
It's
right.
a 5 minute break
All right.
or less.
All right. We'll be
Okay,
back. Bye.
we will.
I like. And we're back.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you? How are you feeling?
Good. This is the intro. It could be what how do you want me to answer that?
It's
It's
been
like,
a
is
while.
that
How
a
are
trick
you?
question? Um,
Welcome to. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Welcome to part 2,
Right. Episode 10.
episode 10. Episode
So,
10.5.
would you like to share with me how this conversation is different from episode 1, 2, and 3?
I don't totally know. I mean, in order to answer that completely accurately, I would have had to have been very aware throughout this and also remember the exact configurate or the exact remember episode 1 fully.
Yeah.
But I think I've slightly I've done a better job. I've been slightly better at uh, being aware of myself as I'm forming sentences. Hopefully, um,
Okay.
that's
That's great.
maybe one of the differences. Also, I will say that I'm less. Care less that we're recording the conversation.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Um, I don't know where to go. Where were we?
I don't know. It's good to, take a breath, figure out where the conversation is supposed to be going. Not that it's supposed to be going anywhere, but set new foundations for what's next. For what's
Mm-hmm.
next.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just go along and follow every trace, like conversations leave traces, little pieces of bread that you can pick up and go
Mm-hmm.
from there and find the I'm sorry, I need to plug in the charger
Do it
for
up.
the laptop,
Do it up.
and I will do that.
Okay.
Go somewhere.
And we're back.
Okay, we are. We're back. My apologies. I
No worries.
didn't have that ready.
I've got a
Uh,
vacant mind.
yeah, yeah, me too.
It's really interesting how when there is a flow to a conversation and like taking a pause really uh, breaks the flow. It's very interesting. It's like there's yeah,
Yeah, you can't ride the same wave, and
yeah.
then you either have to do like wait for the next wave or generate a new one, which is
Oh, you have to generate a
exhausting.
new
Like,
one. Yeah. It's
yeah,
like you need to
you,
just we need to just start making claims or we need to start that it's like in our conversations we're talking it's hard to find out and maybe we'll get better at it but it's and maybe we've
yeah,
already caught a wave but it's figuring out how to generate waves or how the process by which you can create a conversation wave um, that's it can be really hard because I've every single time that we've taken a break in our podcast when we come back it's like it's a real struggle to find a wave or to catch a new one.
or to catch a new one. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's where I was gonna go because you don't always have to generate the wave. And we touched on that a little bit when we were talking about small talk and
Yeah.
maybe you feel the urge to like we should be riding a wave right now, a
Yeah.
conversation
Yeah.
wave. We're both here in this elevator and like we shouldn't there be a wave?
Yeah.
Um,
Usually there aren't waves in elevators, but that's okay.
I just love the metaphor.
Me too.
So probably a better idea right now would be which is what I'm trying to do, is to not follow the urge to jump right into a new wave
Yeah.
and like generate. It's a little bit aggressive to generate like you're
Yeah.
imposing, which
I'm gonna
is
take. Let me.
awesome sometimes.
I'm gonna.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take this the surfing metaphor, and I'm gonna take it a little
go
further.
into it. Nice, I
It's
love it.
like when you're in waves and you're trying to catch a set. Maybe you're going out to the break where the waves are breaking right at that point where you can catch it and you can ride it, whether you're whatever, what have you, what device you're using to catch the wave.
Yeah,
Um, Sometimes you're going out and you're not quite past the break, but there is a wave that you could try and catch, and you paddle super hard and you try to force it. You put all your energy, and for a while, like, it pulls you a little bit, but you weren't in the right place, and eventually, and it takes you further back. So now you have to work harder to get out again to catch a wave, to have, like, a longer ride. And that's I just wanted to extend the metaphor. That's what it's like. It's like you're trying to catch a wave too early. It isn't quite a real wave that you could
yeah,
catch, but you try, and then it takes you back further, and you have to get out into the sea again. So um, that's a nice image that I will try to maintain when we are starting up the podcasts, and starting up after a break. That's a good one.
right, right. And sometimes that new wave is evident, and you try to avoid it and go into some like generate a different wave, and it doesn't last because you should be riding the evident wave. Like to put it into to pull it out of the metaphor,
Yeah.
there's a couple of just topics that are on my mind lately, and I've been,
Mm-hmm.
I obsess over things.
Mm-hmm.
So I become like this in these
Mm-hmm.
things, and you know, these conversations are most of the time related to
Mm-hmm.
those things.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're not, those things remain latent.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're having a different conversation, that conversation works sort of as a distraction, as escapism,
Right.
because you don't forget that that thing is there calling for attention and calling for more diving into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there an urgency races to share your current understanding on those things and
Yeah.
avoid all different conversations.
Yeah. Totally.
So,
What if I just asked you? What if I asked you? Then what? What if I asked you? What have you been
they would be
really
just
interested in?
no, I would bring
I
it
am
up,
asking
but
you.
I know where you are. And it's sort of like I'm begging for you to ask, but I'm not. I'm just
But I am asking.
because I
I'm
would raise it.
currently asking you.
I would bring it up if I, but
Here I
I
am
I
currently asking
think
you,
I think it
what
would
have
be
you been
boring.
thinking about?
For look for because I mean, in one part it's personal, in other one it could be talked about in a non-personal manner,
Got you.
but it would be boring, I think, for viewers. Like not for me or for us to talk about if you're
I don't
It's
think
your
we're not doing this for viewers though.
that's not what I said.
Oh, okay.
That's I we're not. But if I I don't know, if I don't think a topic is engaging enough for it to be content for our podcast and for this
Okay.
conversation,
Okay.
I wouldn't necessarily go there. Like I can have fun
Okay.
talking about different things, but if I'm thinking about money or financial stuff,
Yeah.
that's very particular to like uh, taxing structures that go on in Mexico. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
obsessed over that. And it's like I can't stop thinking about like I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure that in my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like that. That's an example, but I don't
Taxes is really
feel
weird.
that right.
Taxes
But
is
then
really weird.
we would be talking about taxes in general, and taxes is hard to. It's
I
hard
like
to.
you narrating where our conversation might go.
Yeah, I'm looking a little bit into the future.
Okay. Future.
Um, would you agree that's not? No, I'm not gonna go there.
I would say as an
I retract.
observation, when we started this today, the conversation, just by my state, I was very worried that it would be difficult to get something going.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, and it went into a pretty long flowing conversation, and now this is where I feel like it would have been at the beginning. So maybe we should end it up. You know,
Yeah, of course.
there's no need to
Okay.
force a length.
Whenever we feel like we're ready to let go.
I will say, and maybe this isn't the one, but in sometimes we should see where it goes and how long it takes to get through a break in waves, because that is also a practice. I mean, that's a big practice trying to figure out exactly how to get through. The first, thanks for the conversation.
Thank you.
Hopefully, we can get another one in before the week ends.
Maybe the day after tomorrow.
Sounds good.
See what happens.
That sounds good.
All right.
All right. Have a good one.